Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, February 21st, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by my friend Jonah Booker in just a moment. You guys, I know you guys love the Friday shows with J-Book. How could you not? We're going to get into a lot of different things. There's a lot of debate on how the future of the college football playoff should be shaped as far as how many teams make it, how the seedings should be. J-Book and I are going to give our takes on how we think it should be. And maybe if what we think how it should be is not how they're going to do it, we'll also give you our opinions on how we think that they're going to do it, even if we don't agree with it. So we'll get into that. We'll talk some Julian Sayin. Obviously, he's going to be the story of spring, at least the biggest story of spring. Curious to get J-Book's thoughts on all of the new coaches now that that's been cemented and much more. And Steve Helwagen said about a year ago at this time to Gene Smith, the basketball program has died on your watch. Gene did not like that at all. Died on the vine on your watch. And Gene did not like that, pushed back against it. Hard to argue against it now that the basketball program died on his watch. But so it's not hard to argue against Mando. It is hard to argue against Mando. Excuse me. I love Mando. I just got out of the shower, in fact, and then put some Mando on. Too much information? No. Mando is America's #1 whole-body deodorant for men, and I highly recommend it. If you've been using the same deodorant for many years like I was, it might be time to try something new and better, and that's where Mando comes in. Do you want to try America's #1 whole-body deodorant right now? You can find the products at Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. For the best deals, still go to shopmando.com. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code BUCKNUTS at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Now, with no further ado, let's bring in Jonah Booker. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Happy Friday.
I'm doing fantastic. I won't be too long. I'll be down in your neck of the woods, my friend.
Coming into some great weather.
I know. I keep looking at it. It's getting me through this. Hopefully, this is the last week of terrible weather here in Ohio, but we'll see. Maybe I shouldn't get too far ahead of myself. All right, there's been a lot of debate on the future of the CFP. Obviously, the Big Ten and the SEC met. And that's getting some people hot and bothered that the Big Ten and SEC have all this power. But, hey, it's the way it is. How do you think it should be shaped going forward as far as how many teams make it? And how do you think that the seeding should go, the buys? How do you think it should be shaped going forward, J-Book?
Yeah, there's a part of me that thinks that having 4 automatic bids for each, the SEC and the Big Ten, it definitely – probably, if you're looking at the big picture, hurts the college football product as a whole, because you're basically awarding to saying, hey, if you can win 9 games in your conference, then, or you can win 9 games overall, then you're probably going to be in the playoffs. At that point, why would you schedule difficult non-conference games? Now, with that being said, there's been talk that the Big Ten and the SEC are talking about having some type of scheduling agreement. If that's the case, then that would be awesome as far as the actual product on the field, because you'll get some very cool games. Ohio State playing down at Alabama, or LSU playing at Penn State. Those would be some cool football games to actually see. But I don't understand why they're even expanding from this, Dave. I don't understand what's broken about this process other than awarding someone like Boise a bye. You can do away with that and say, hey, we don't need to have a bye for Boise. Let's just rank the top 12 teams, and the top 4 teams get a bye right now. I don't understand why they're transitioning from 12 that they just started to 14 to 16.
I think you know why.
Well, money. Obviously, that's the big reason, money. But I don't think the 12 team, it can be tweaked, but I don't think it's like something that's a complete failure to say, hey, we're going to scrap the entire 12-team system when you just need to make some tweaks so that Boise and those type of teams don't get a bye.
Yeah, I obviously they're doing it because of money, and that's man. Stuart Mandel took shots at Kevin Warren, fair, and then took big time shots at Tony Petitti. Called him even worse than Kevin Warren. I'm like, no. There's nobody worse than Kevin Warren as far as that job. But I think Stuart Mandel. I think he does a good job overall for the Athletic. He's their college football or national college football editor. But I think he was misguided with that, man. I mean, Tony Petitti's doing his job. He's not the commissioner of college football. He's the commissioner of the Big Ten. For those that missed it, Mandel is taking shots at Petitti that saying all he cares about is raising the Big Ten's revenue through TV deals. Yeah, that's his job.
Right.
It's his job. Imagine if he was like, we'll just take whatever deal's out there. No, he's trying to make more money. So, yeah, I'm with you. I wish they were just keeping it at 12, but they're not going to. I think what will happen is they're going to go to 14, just like the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fait accompli. I think that is definitely going to happen. Not that they can't do it this coming year, but they can do it in the beginning in 2026, and it doesn't have to be unanimous. The Big Ten and SEC can just say, this is how we're doing it. So I think they're going to have 14. It's going to be just like the NFL, minus having the two conferences, but you're going to have 14 teams make the playoffs, 2 byes. Top 2 teams get a bye. That's how I think they're going to do it. But I think eventually they're probably going to move to 16, man. Just the money talks. So I think that's probably how they're going to do it.
It's crazy because we all made fun of the SEC for whining and crying about, Alabama should have got in, even though Alabama got smoked by Vandy and Oklahoma. I mean, at that point, if you go to 16 teams, do those losses even matter at that point? Because I felt like at the time, those were significant moments because Alabama losing to Oklahoma, that shaped, the trajectory of the playoffs, because you're like, okay, Alabama's out. That you can't get them in there at that point. And then Ole Miss losing to Florida and stumbling down the stretch. Like, those games actually mattered. And you go to 16 teams, we lost, but we're still in the top 4 of our conference. Now you look at a Big Ten. I mean, yes, you're probably going to get more money, but if you're the other teams in the Big Ten, you're probably looking at this like, especially the Big Ten West was like, please let this happen. If you're like if you're like Wisconsin, Nebraska, Iowa, those type of teams, they're probably like pushing the envelope hard, saying, hey, please get this to four Big Ten team invitational, because what's the chances of those teams rising up to beat an Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan to get into the actual playoff, and the USC if they find a way to start getting clicking. So those Big Ten West teams that normally would have made it to the Big Ten championship back in the days, they're probably like, please, this is our one shot, because I mean, it kind of tells you what their mind frame is, especially when you see Wisconsin extending Fickle out to 2032.
What was the rush there?
That made zero sense to me. Like, okay, right. I don't know anybody who's looking at Luke Fickle right now and saying, hey, we're going to try to hire him away. I mean, they're staring down the barrel of a 5-win season next year. When you look how brutal their schedule is, they go at Alabama, they have Ohio State, they have Oregon, I think they have Michigan, and they have the rivals with Iowa. So they're going to be struggling next year. I just didn't get that why they've extended, but their big picture is probably like, well, we're going to be making so much more money, and with the 14 playoffs, with the Big Ten getting 14 teams in the future, we'll have a much better chance of getting into the big dance.
All right, switch gears from the CFP. Although the good thing is we know for sure when they expand the CFP, Ohio State's going to win the first year that they expand, right?
Right.
Is that the pattern that we're seeing?
That's kind of how it goes.
I say we keep that pattern, especially if they're going to start doing it every 2 years now, not every 10 years. Might as well just win a natty every 2 years, if not repeat this year. If they're going to repeat this year, number 10, Julian Sayin, is going to have a big year. I know I'm not breaking news there. Yeah. That number 10's been good for Ohio State quarterbacks over the years. I mean, before our time, you're a lot younger than me, but even before my time, Rex Kern wearing that number 10. Arch Leaster ended up being a piece of crap person, but like when he was at Ohio State wearing that number 10 was good to him. Troy Smith was pretty damn good in that number 10. feel like I'm leaving somebody out here, but so forget about the number 10 for a second. What are your expectations for Julian Sayin this year as the starting quarterback?
Well, the expectations are that he holds up to the Ohio State standard as a quarterback. He was a 5-star for a reason. I've heard that he's hit a growth spurt. He's up to around 6'2" right now, so that's good. So he's adding a little bit to that frame there. The biggest thing for Julian is he needs to get bigger, needs to get stronger. I know a lot of people are going to look at that baby face of his and kind of be skeptical. But I think he has the potential to be really good. He needs to put in the work, make sure that he's getting as much training with Billy Fessler in the offseason so that he is ready to go. By no means is he going to be automatically handed this spot. Lincoln Kihos is going to battle him this spring. Yep. Now, we all think that Sayin's going to be the guy, but when you got a really high ceiling guy in Lincoln, who's incredibly athletic, who's now been in the program for some time. Let's see what you can do, Lincoln. Like, I know we're all gifting Sayin the spot, and I think he will actually get it, but I would love to see some competition there. I would love to see him get pushed to where it brings out the best of him. But I think that if he wins the starting spot, and I think he will, he's going to play at an incredibly high level because he has the most weapons on the perimeter of any team in college football and probably the best tight end room in all of college football, getting the Purdue transfer over there as well. And you bring back a lot of the guys that you had in that room besides Scott. So I think he has the most weapons. He just needs to be able to take care of the football, go through his progressions, and be able to hit those guys when they're open. No, I know a lot of people are skeptical about the one pass that he threw in the playoffs. I wouldn't look too much into that, but I can't wait till you guys get over there, Dave, to the facility. That's going to be the real telltale time when you guys get over there to the facility to watch some of these spring practices, just to kind of see what the zip is on the ball, how he's taking command of the offense, how's his mechanics. If you start to see like, whoo, he's lighting it up, that's when a lot of people are really going to start to get excited.
And his leadership, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that because there was one thing I always had a bad feeling about Kyle McCord. I'm not trying to pick on him. He ended up having a good senior year at Syracuse. I wish him well. Kyle was always a good young man. I never have any ill will toward Kyle, but I have to say this, like I talked about it before. I was always concerned about it. Just seemed there's something was lacking with him as far as charisma. And I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, but typically if you're going to be a good quarterback, you have to be charismatic. You have to be somebody that your teammates gravitate toward. And that was Will Howard. He just epitomized that. And like McCord was kind of the opposite of that. I'm curious to see where Sayin fits in, like from a leadership standpoint. I believe in him. And you make a good point about Lincoln Keenholz. We should not be writing him off. Tavian St. Clair is going to battle too, but he's coming from a small school in Ohio. We need to be patient with Tavian, especially at the quarterback position. But it's going to be interesting to see how he if he's going to be the quarterback. He's a young guy. How is he going to take the reins as a sophomore and lead this team?
You hit it out the head when you talk about leadership. The other day, and I'll rub this in, I was taking a lunch break and I was just like, I'm going to go ride my bike for about an hour around the neighborhoods. So I took my bike out, 75 degrees and sunny, and I was listening to a Bryson Rogers interview, and he was with some guy that was down in Florida. Really good interview. And he asked him about Will Howard. And Bryson Rogers, he said he's seasoned. He goes, everybody from top down love Will. And he goes, the thing that Will brought to the table is, as you mentioned, was leadership. But Will came in and he totally embraced being that front forwarding guy. Like, hey, I'll be at the tip of the spear for you guys. If we do wrong, I will be the one that goes to the podium and take the bullets for you guys. And Bryson said, guys in the locker room love that about Will. They love the fact that no matter who you are, where you came from, Will was just a cool dude that wanted to hang out with everybody. And he loved being like a Buckeye. And everybody in that locker room knew that Will had their back. And he would go to bat for them. And he would give his shirt off to his back for those guys. And because of that he won that locker room over. and he earned the trust of that team to say, hey, that's our leader, that's our guy. And I'm curious to see how Julian embraces that, because that's why it was such a great move bringing Will into the program, because I truly believe he put on a master class on how to operate as a quarterback in a high pressured environment of being the quarterback of Ohio State and Columbus. He took those bullets. He fought for his boys, and in the end, they fought for him. And Ryan Day, bringing him in, gave the opportunity for those younger guys to really see how you should operate in this type of space, in this type of high pressured environment. So I'm curious to see how Sayin handles it.
Yeah, and like as somebody said in the comments, he couldn't be in a better position as far as having Ryan Day as his head coach. But look what Ryan Day's done. I mean, just one after another. Even McCord's one season, even though it wasn't as good as it needed to be, still, you look at the stats, it was good. Look what he did with Will Howard. I mean, Sayin is in a very good position with Ryan Day, so that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But all right, I'm gonna get Jay Book's thoughts. I want him to kind of grade the new coaching staff hire, so to speak. An overall grade. I'm curious what Jay Book thinks about the job Ryan Day did. A big overhaul of the staff, some promotions, some guys brought in from the outside. Obviously, Matt Patricia being the main guy. He also brought in 3 analysts, including the guy that was the offensive line coach at Oklahoma State last year. All 3 of these guys are like offensive line analysts. So he's really going, and they have a new O-line coach as well, of course, with Tyler Bowen. Before we do that, I'll let you guys know about Factor Meals. I love telling the story because it's true. I moonlight over at 97.1 The Fan here in Columbus, the radio station, and one of my friends there, when I co-host a show with him, he's always making, halfway through the show, he'll go out and he'll make one of those old school microwave meals, or he used to. So he used to make these old school microwave meals every day at lunch. There's really nothing around the station to go get like lunch. He's making these old school microwave meals from like the 1980s. And I'm like, you've got to get with Factor. He loves it now. Factor. High quality, great tasting meals ready in just 2 minutes, never frozen, always fresh. No prep, no mess, nothing to clean up. Stop eating those old school microwave meals and get with Factor. And we have a great deal for you. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. Use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. So if you have somebody at work that's making frozen tilapia in the microwave and stinking the place up, tell them that you got to get with Factor, man. You got to get with Factor. All right. New coaches. We've had somebody in the chat that wanted to even ask about this. So new coaches, what's your opinion, and what kind of grade would you give Ryan Day on how he filled out his staff?
Well, I'm not going to give them an A right now because we need to see how the team actually performs on the field. That's going to be very critical on giving them an accurate grade. But so far, I give them a B plus, Dave. I do think these guys are going to be able to really enhance the program, especially Tyler Bowen. As somebody mentioned in the chat, he's killing himself. Like I love the job that he is doing right now on the recruiting trail. You go over to our Bucknuts board and Bill Curley. Every day it seems like a new target is popping up. I think it's up to like 21 different offensive linemen that he has contacted so far since he's been there. I love this approach. It's a complete 180 compared to the Justin Fry approach when it comes to recruiting. Tyler Bowen he's leaving no stone unturned. He is going from coast to coast. He's contacting so many offensive linemen, creating such a wider net to where, hey, we're not going to put all of our eggs in one basket. We are going to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D if needed, and we're going to get all of these guys onto campus. And I love this new strategy because now you're going to have a bunch of these kids, especially when you got a national championship at the back of your sales pushing you. You're going to have a lot of these kids saying, I want to be a part of that. So you're going to have kids jump because they don't want their spot taken. They know that, hey, Ohio State's talking to 20-some different offensive linemen. So if I want to be a part of that, I need to get on board right away. And we saw a couple of crystal balls for the state of Ohio offensive linemen to Clemson. Now I'm at this point, I was like, they go because I truly have faith that Tyler Bowen is going to be able to load that room up. They need probably 5, maybe 6 linemen in this class, and I think he's going to be able to fill those numbers the way he's recruiting. As far as Matt Patricia, we're going to see. Haven't heard from the guy yet. I'm sure he'll be available to the media once he gets all settled in. So we'll see. I think that the potential, the ceiling is high. The potential is there for him to be good here. The floor is also very low to where it could be an issue if he's not cohesive with the guys that are already there. But I think overall, I would give them a B plus if they can get those guys to play at a high level. And you mentioned the analysts that came over. 2 guys one from Mississippi State, and I think the other one was from Oklahoma State. Yeah. And those guys were on the field coaches at one point. To be able to get on the field coaches to come over here to be analysts, now you're adding veterans who's going to be able to help to accelerate the development of the offensive line. Great job. I mean, I couldn't be happier with the moves right now, but you still got to leave a little bit room to see how they perform, the kids on the field.
Yeah, I give him a B plus. I'm with you. I can't give him an A yet. Now, when we give the grade after next season, hopefully we're saying A plus. I really have a good feeling about Patricia. And I also know, I mean, Ryan Day, there's no way, in my opinion, that he would have brought Patricia in from the outside without going to Tim Walton and going to Matt Guerrero and being like, what do you guys think about this? Like, you guys are going to get promoted. You guys are going to get taken care of financially. What do you think about this? Are you okay with it? And I imagine they signed off on it. I know Ryan Day can do what he wants, especially not coming off a national title, but he's not going to piss off OG Walt and piss off Matt Guerrero, who he just called one of the rising stars in the industry. Justin Fry, real quick before we move on and talk about the Dead on the Vine basketball team. I have mixed emotions about him, man, because he just did not recruit. He just did. He was like a lazy recruiter, but my God, he did a good job, like developing guys. Josh Simmons wasn't considered like a big, prospect when he came here. 2 years later, even though he's coming off a serious injury, everybody has him projected as a first-round pick. If he wasn't injured, he'd probably be a top 10 pick. Look what he did with Seth McLaughlin. Nobody thought he was going to come here and win the Remington Award. Then you lose both of those guys. People are saying the season's over now. You had national reporters saying Ohio State has no chance now with those two. This is before they lost to Michigan. And then what does he do? He wins the national title with a makeshift offensive line. So I'll always appreciate Justin Fry. And it's not lost on me. He had his introductory press conference down in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Soon to be my neck of the woods briefly. And I don't know if it was yesterday or 2 days ago, but he even told on himself. He's like, I'm so glad I have this job now so I can just focus on the football aspect of it. Basically saying he didn't like recruiting. So yeah, I have mixed emotions about Justin Fry. I guess I'll always appreciate what he did as far as helping this team win a national championship. That's
absolutely. I think we all kind of knew that. It's kind of a double-edged sword because he did a really good job developing the offensive line. He was a major factor in helping this program reach a national championship and bringing that gold trophy back to Columbus. But on the other end, because he didn't like recruiting and his lack of effort, now the offensive line numbers aren't where they should be. The depth is not necessarily there. So you are having to rely on the portal, which can be a good thing, especially with a position like the offensive line. But those numbers coming up down the pipeline, Tyler Bowen's going to have to come in and make up a lot of ground for the misses that Justin Fry had. And it wasn't necessarily like, hey, I don't like recruiting. But the main thing is he just didn't recruit enough guys, period. And you and I talked about this at the time. They had such a small foot presence as far as offensive linemen visiting campus compared to like Michigan and Georgia and Alabama, those other programs who were loading up on the line. Like we had a fraction of that, but that's starting to change. You're starting to see Tyler Bowen bring in a large presence of offensive linemen visiting, and that's the biggest thing. And if you look at him, he likes these guys, these tackles that are like 6'7", lean, 6'6", lean guys that you can add a lot to their frame. So he definitely has a type that he really likes. And Justin Fry, I mean, I think the NFL is going to do well in NFL. Like he said, he can just focus on ball. And hopefully he has a lot of success with Paris Johnson because those two hit it off and he developed him, got him to where he needed to be. And I tell you what, I'll be watching closely because Cardinals in my neck of the woods, they're always on. And this coaching staff right now in Arizona, they're not necessarily on the safe seat. They're still kind of like, are they any good or are they not? Because Kyler Murray is so up and down. He hasn't really played to his actual potential, and the talent overall. Like they need some fresh legs at the running back position. Some people thought that Marvin just had a so-so year. A lot of people blamed it on Kyler Murray not really getting him the ball like he should have. A lot of people will bring up clips of when Marvin was actually open. So this is a big year for them.
Yeah, it is cool that like Paris Johnson and Marvin Harrison are down there. Let's get some more Buckeyes down there. I still can't believe we had a super. Actually, we did. Paris Campbell got elevated from the practice squad to the 53-man roster for the Super Bowl. So we did have one Buckeye in the Super Bowl. That was good because practice squad wouldn't have counted. I still can't believe the Chiefs all this time haven't had a Buckeye, but whatever. I digress. Drink.
Right.
All right. It was about a year ago at this time when we had maybe a little more than a year ago, but it was in February of last year. And Chris Holtmann had been let go, and we talked to Gene Smith. It wasn't right after he was let go, but it was like a few days after Chris Holtmann was let go. And we're interviewing Gene Smith. There was a lot of softball questions. And then Steve Helwagen, who is not one to like stir up stuff. He wasn't trying to stir up stuff. He just was keeping it real. He said, Gene, he said it very nicely. But he explained, you know, how like, he even prefaced it with, I get that there are these roadblocks. I understand this. But it seems as though the basketball program from where it was to where it is now has died on the vine. Gene did not like that. He died on the vine, and is really like, he really didn't like it. Well, sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, you compare it to the Mata era, that vine is dead. I mean, they lost. This Northwestern team is bad, and they were down 2 players. Ohio State's favored by 10.5 at home. They lose 70-49 to that Northwestern team. Now they're probably out of the tournament unless they like go on a major run here. Very disappointing. And Jake Diebler, I like him. He was put in a bad situation. He should not have been promoted to head coach. He was the top assistant of the guy that was failing.
Yeah.
Dead on the vine.
Yeah. The basketball program is definitely not where it needs to be. I mean, this Northwestern team was not very good. They were coming in off a 3-game losing streak. As you mentioned, down 2 guys, and you get blown out at home. The thing about the basketball program, I think that loss to Michigan the other day, it cost them again today because I felt like they knew that they needed to get that Michigan win as a bubble team, and they lost that. And I think that loss hurt them mentally in this game, obviously, but they just didn't play well. I was listening. Ross Bjork was on Tim May podcast, and he kind of talked about the basketball program. He said he was actually at this time he was on a sabbatical, and he was thinking like, oh, I have, some time off between Texas A&M and Ohio State. He said he was on his sabbatical, and Gene Smith called him and said, hey, I'm making a move with the basketball program to try to find a new coach. So you got Ross, who's not really there. He's kind of in between jobs. And then you have Gene Smith, who decided to fire the previous coach. And how much was Gene involved with hiring Diebler here? Because I don't think Ross was running a full-scale search on his own. I think it was kind of a collaborative effort, and they just kind of settled on Diebler. So I don't know where you go from here, because I don't think you fire him after 1 year. I think you still got to give him at least a couple more years to try to get to where he needs to be. The one thing about the basketball is you can completely overhaul your roster year in and year out to try to, get you where you're at. I mean, look at St. John's. Rick Pitino said we no longer recruit high school. Rick said that, hey, we're going to continue to focus on the transfer portal and bring in kids who are going to be able to help us right away. You look at St. John's, and they're looking like they have the potential to make a run. I mean, can you imagine what Rick Pitino would do here with the resources if he was at Ohio State? I know they would never hire him because of his past history, but man, he's a heck of a ball coach.
I hate to say it, or Dusty May.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan was worse than Ohio State last year. Look at them now; they're leading the
Yeah.
Big Ten.
Yeah.
He just to your point, it took Dusty May 1
Yeah.
year to turn them around, and it just doesn't look good, man. That they promoted from within when they could have gone after a Dusty May. Now, maybe
Yeah.
Michigan. Maybe he would have preferred to go to Michigan over Ohio State. I have no idea, but money talks. All right, well, go ahead.
Hold on. I was going to say this. See, I think they try to pull the role like they did with the football program with Ryan Day saying, "Hey, we're going to hire within." The problem is the football program had incredible success under Urban Meyer with Ryan Day. So you had a blueprint to say, "Hey, this is a very successful program that's on solid footing." With the basketball program, the foundation was very, very rocky. I thought it was critical for them to bring in someone who was a veteran coach with a lot of experience who knows how to build a foundation. So basically, you're bringing in a coach, a coach that's coming in. You're saying, "Hey, build this house," but he's never built a house before. So he's kind of going about it, flying by the seat of his pants. When this program actually needs someone who's able to build a foundation. And at that point, if Diebler was still around, then you can say, "Hey, let's hand the reins over to him if that veteran coach decides to retire or move on."
It would have been like when they fired John Cooper. If they just like, okay, we're going to fire John Cooper and then we're going to hire your top assistant. Like, no.
Yeah.
And Fred Puckett did a really good job as defensive coordinator, and he did interview for the job. It was a token interview, in my opinion. It really came down to Jim Tressel and Glenn Mason. All the heavy hitters wanted Glenn Mason, and Geiger said, "Nope, I'm hiring Jim Tressel." But yeah, it just didn't make sense, man. You're going to fire Holtman, and then your idea is to then promote from within. Yeah, this is not Urban Meyer going, his 7-year run, then you promote from within his top assistant. Very strange. Well, my friend, the next time I see you will not be over a computer screen. It'll be in person at a baseball game in Tempe, Arizona. I'm looking forward to that.
Let's go, Dave.
80 degrees all week. I think that's a little better than the single digits and teens that we've had the last 2 weeks here in Ohio. I'm going to enjoy the 80-degree weather. It's going to be good seeing you in person, my friend.
Hey, I can't wait. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, buddy.
Get to watch the Reds, swing the bats a little bit and see how they look. Some of the young prospects.
That's my one road game I'm going to while I'm down there because Reds are in Goodyear, so I'm going over to Tempe. Is always going to have a soft spot in my heart because of Sun Devil Stadium, which I know that's not even called that anymore, but whatever. All right. Go Reds. Go J-Book. I will see you soon, my friend. Thank you as always. I appreciate it.
Talk to you later.
All right. Thanks to J-Book, the one and only. All right. So I'll be off next week. Dan Rubin has you guys covered. No worries. Thanks to J-Book. Thanks to all of you. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us out. Appreciate that very much. Thanks to J-Book. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Go Bucks.